Pride and Prejudice, a modern parody. Title: Swipe and Superiority. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single millennial in possession of a smartphone must be in one of a dating app. Elizabeth Bennet, a 29-year-old freelance graphic designer, is no exception. Living in a cramped flat with her 4 sisters and her overbearing mother, who spends her days scrolling through Pinterest wedding boards, Elizabeth is constantly reminded that her biological clock is ticking louder than her Wi-Fi router. One fateful Friday night, Elizabeth reluctantly agrees to attend a networking event, Read, Glorified Singles Mixer, hosted by her best friend, Charlotte. There, she meets Fitzwilliam Darcy, a tech billionaire with a penchant for wearing overpriced hoodies and an expression that screams, "I'd rather be coding." Darcy, unimpressed by the crowd, mutters to his friend Charles Bingley, "This is a waste of time. Everyone here is just trying to pitch their startup or find a husband." Unfortunately for him, Elizabeth overhears this and immediately labels him as the human embodiment of a bad LinkedIn post. Darcy, on the other hand, is intrigued by Elizabeth's sharp wit and refusal to laugh at his jokes about blockchain. But his attempts to impress her, such as bragging about his Tesla collection and casually mentioning his private island, only deepen her disdain. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's mother is busy trying to set her up with William Collins, a self-proclaimed influencer who runs a YouTube channel about minimalist living while secretly hoarding Funko Pop figures. Misunderstandings and modern-day drama. The plot thickens when Elizabeth's sister, Jane, starts dating Charles Bingley, Darcy's best friend and the human equivalent of a golden retriever. However, Darcy, convinced that Jane is only after Bingley's money, and possibly his Peloton subscription, advises his friend to ghost her. This, of course, leads to a dramatic fallout when Elizabeth finds out and accuses Darcy of being the kind of guy who leaves a 1-star review on Etsy for no reason. Adding to the chaos is George Wickham, a charming but shady fitness influencer who slides into Elizabeth's DMs with promises of free personal training sessions. Wickham tells Elizabeth a sob story about how Darcy ruined his life by sabotaging his gym franchise. Fueled by her dislike of Darcy, Elizabeth believes Wickham's tale without question, even though his Instagram is full of questionable hashtags like #RiseAndGrind and #Alpha Mindset. The turning point. Things take a turn when Darcy, in a moment of vulnerability, sends Elizabeth a long email, subject line, "My feelings, unfiltered," confessing his love for her. He also explains that Wickham is a fraud who once tried to sell NFTs of stolen dog photos. Elizabeth, touched but skeptical, decides to investigate. Sure enough, she discovers that Wickham's personal training business is actually a pyramid scheme involving protein powder. Meanwhile, Darcy redeems himself by helping Elizabeth's sister Lydia, who has run off to Ibiza with Wickham after being promised a brand ambassador deal. Darcy quietly pays off Wickham to ensure Lydia's safe return, proving that he's not just a tech bro with a superiority complex but also a decent human being. Happily ever after, with Wi-Fi in the end, Elizabeth realizes that Darcy's awkwardness is just a side effect of spending too much time in front of screens, and Darcy learns that not everyone can be impressed by his net worth. They bond over their shared love of sarcasm and disdain for influencer culture, eventually moving in together and adopting a rescue dog named Austen. As for the rest of the Bennet family, Jane and Bingley get back together and open a cozy cafe that serves overpriced avocado toast. Lydia starts a podcast about her Ibiza misadventures, Mary becomes a TikTok star by playing classical piano covers of pop songs, and Mrs. Bennet finally gets her Pinterest-worthy wedding when Elizabeth and Darcy tie the knot in a low-key ceremony streamed live on Zoom. Moral of the story: in a world dominated by swipes, likes, and hashtags, true love still requires overcoming pride, prejudice, and the occasional bad Wi-Fi connection.